Hello, crazy peoples. So today we're gonna be making an oil painting and you'll be following along with me. You'll see the whole procedure of it. I actually made a reference image for this painting. I don't know how much we're gonna go, and like follow the reference image, but I will show you guys the reference image anyway, minus the inappropriate parts. Anyways, I don't know how much I'm gonna follow it, but I got a request recently that from a friend who was saying that he wanted, like, it would be fun if I showed some more technical videos for beginners. This is not a beginner's video. This is definitely not going to be a beginner's video, but I did think that it would be a good idea for me to show you guys a little bit more kind of step-by-step process, kind of talk with you guys through it. So we're gonna start off by, like, I'm gonna make a grid on my Photoshop document. I never really do this. I never plan these things. However, I have in the past, in the very beginning stages of me getting to know the drawing medium, I have done that. I'm not a fan of grids or anything like that because I do kind of love imperfections, and I've trained my eye mostly through continuously creating. My eye has just gotten more trained to, like the dimensions or where I need to place certain parts when I'm doing realism. But for a beginner or for someone who doesn't spend so much time in the visual realm, it does really help to create a grid on the reference image that you have. That's why we're working with the reference image today, so I can show a little bit of that. But most likely, there will be a point in the painting process that I will stray away from the reference image. So this is sort of a little bit of a tutorial, but then not. I mean, I still think it is a tutorial, creative tutorial, like always, like most of my videos, because I don't really believe in, like, closing yourself in a box and being super rigid about your creative process. I think if you're using a reference image, great, but even then, when you're actually playing around with the materials and the colors and your own personal mood, it will probably change. It will, and that's good. That's actually expanding your creativity. So just go with it and change accordingly. And oftentimes, it just turns out way cooler than your reference image. At least in my opinion. So that's what we're gonna do, and if that happens, I will, I'll be narrating it, and yeah, we're gonna do this together. Accessing my box of goodies, we're gonna just add new paint to the entire palette because I want to be doing some blending, and I don't want to be like, oh no, I wish I had this color on my palette. So we're just gonna squeeze everything on there. I mean, not only the basics. I mean, we got some gray, some black. I could technically make my own gray, but yeah. So if you don't have these big tubes, just go for it. Like the primaries, it's gonna be fine as well. Like I said, this is not a beginners video, but if you do have a bunch of colors and if you are a beginner, you can still vibe with me. Feel free to send me your final outcome. I would love to see. There's no judgment on this channel. So just, yeah, it's all about creativity. It's all about accessing our own inner creative selves and little crazies. So yeah. Oh, I love this one. I love using this. But now we got our paints. feel free to join me in this process. You can slow down the video and follow along, or just write down some notes, and perhaps in your next painting you will be using these tips, advice as well. What we're doing now is creating a grid, and as you can tell, I don't have a ruler, so I'm just gonna be using my freaking paper to find the middle. And it's not perfect. I don't care about perfection. It's not my thing, never been my thing. But what I recommend doing is first gridding it out on the reference image, and then gridding it out on the canvas as well. Initially, I had just done a cross, but I realized that I wanted some more grids because I wanted to show you guys an even easier way to sketch out the reference that you're trying to paint, since I am really trying to make something useful this time. And so now you will just go according to the reference image, and the boxes that you see in there, you can figure out by looking at where the middle of each box is.
So you can see behind,
you start sketching in that way.
An outline. I haven't done
the way I did it, because we're following a grid system. I'm doing it pretty much box by box.
Why am I even overthinking this?
But what I usually like to do is to eyeball the whole thing and sketch it out.
It's all about practice,
briefly.
So that's kind of like.
But in this
also
case,
that with you guys.
the grid system really manages to
I
make
honestly
it look
prefer just like
very, very similar to the reference image, so
you
don't really leave so much room for messing it up. So just follow box by box, and don't worry about the overall image. And you might be really confused with where it's heading at the moment that
for me, I hate working like this.
And if you mess up just a little bit, it's all good. Once the color is on, it's all gonna look
and then as I go, I'm gonna be
like an image. It's gonna look like what you're trying to do.
Sculpting with color. I don't even like to think about outlines.
Yeah, so I'm just
oftentimes I just go for I immediately put the shadows in and light stuff, like the light areas. And artists, probably a lot of artists wouldn't be suggesting that. So I mean, that's just kind of how I work. We all work in different ways. But I also do think working in the way that I tend to work does require more experience, and I will do another video in just showing you guys how I work with reference images in my own style. It just ends up being much more uncertain, the results. Like sometimes it becomes much more realistic. It just depends on the vibe when I work in that way. So anyway, if you followed me so far, I mean, might as well just like continue. And yeah, I'm actually really stoked to be doing something a little bit longer for you guys now, and kind of like following through the steps. And I mean, if you guys make a piece, like I said, just like send it to me on Instagram, like PM me, or on Patreon, just like email me, message me. I would love to see what you guys make if you actually end up going through with it. But yeah, let's continue now.
Because this video is going to end up becoming quite long, I'm making a shorter version of this video, not going into the step-by-step process so much. This way, you guys can get some more exclusive content, and also I imagine that if you're here with me, you are interested in the steps, and you might want to hear more about it, whereas someone on YouTube might just want to, I don't know, just want some entertainment. So I'm putting more effort into describing my process, which is a little hard for me because I tend to flow more. But now I am doing the background, and I'll be totally honest with you guys. I actually, looking back, I wish that I would have made the background fall into the subject more and brushing it into the subject more. This way would have created more of an even background, and I wouldn't have had to be so careful with having the outlines marked and be so stiff, because I ended up having to go into the background afterwards. So what I actually recommend, even though I'm using a small brush, the reason why I'm using a small brush is because I'm too lazy to clean my brushes, and the larger the brush, the longer it takes for me to clean them, and cleaning oil brushes is a pain in the butt. It just sucks. So I'm using a relatively small brush to do the background. If you do have a large brush laying around, go ahead, use a large brush. Don't worry about making it perfect. You see how I'm going scattered into the paint? I'm just laying all the color on there. You will know why in a sec. So yeah, just let loose. Know what color you want to go in there, because yeah, we have a plan. We have an agenda this time. We know what we're doing. So just follow your freaking reference image and lay the colors down. Don't be afraid. You know, this is not something you don't even have to be thinking at this point, because you already thought during the reference image creation. So you're all good. It's not even stressful. Okay, now we have all the colors laid out. And what I'm doing now is I'm using oh wait, no, we're not there yet. Soon, very soon. Well, I'm just gonna speed up my voice my voice message. Oh, actually no, now we're on to that. So now I went in for a dry brush and I'm blending it out. If you've done makeup before, you know what I'm talking about. You just take a dry brush and you blend it out. And to get that really smooth vibe going on, what I did was blending it out horizontally. Look at that baby, it looks gorgeous. So now we have that, and I'm starting out by laying out some highlights. Although remember, any color that I put down doesn't necessarily mean that this is the only color that's ever going to be there. So don't be afraid. Bottom line, don't be afraid. Just lay things out. I like to go a little bit more extreme on the colors when I'm doing the first layer. So if I notice there's a little bit of green somewhere, I will exaggerate that green. And I tend to be more careful about keeping the highlights highlighted and not making the highlights dirty, because it just makes me feel better about the image as it comes to life. And the shadows, you can always make it darker as you go. If you can nail the color from the get-go, that's amazing, obviously. But if it takes you some time to adjust and figure out the tones and have some sort of comparison between the light areas and the shadows, don't worry about it. Just don't be afraid. Really important, don't be afraid, especially when you're painting something that is more three-dimensional. If you are a beginner, perhaps start with something a little bit less demanding when it comes to, something a little bit less representational. Maybe start with flowers, because I feel like if you mess up on flowers, it will still look like a flower. I guess you could do people too. But there's a lot of different shades, a lot of different hues within the skin tone. Actually, I feel like it would be quite interesting to be practicing painting and seeing your own growth while you do portraits. So give it a go. If you're not afraid, give it a go. But as you can see, I'm just going in. You can't see my palette. At one of these days, I will figure out a way to shoot both my palette and my painting process at the same time. But bear with me for now, because this is all, I'm not I'm not a professional film editor, and that just seems like something I'm gonna have to figure out, and I'm not even good at text. So now we're gonna go on to the hands, leaving it for last. I also thought I was gonna do this shadow area. I should have actually just filled it out with the background, I realized, because I didn't end up doing a shadow area. So yeah, remember one thing, that when you're painting something that requires a lot of detail, to be really, really patient. I know that a lot of creatives lack patience, or you're someone who's like really, really patient. I tend to be both, and I don't like to work all the time in this patient, calm state. Sometimes I want to just be really expressive, but if you are trying to paint something representationally, you're trying to make it look like the image, then you do have to calm down, really enjoy the process. Don't get frustrated if it doesn't look right. If you mess up, you can't just back up like you would do on your computer, which I do also. I struggle with that because sometimes I'll wish like I had a keyboard in my hand and I can just back up and go to my previous before I mess it up. But if you mess something up, you can always fix it. You just have to maintain a really calm, serene state. That has been a struggle for me in my painting process, but I've been working on it, and for this one I managed to remain really calm. I'm actually going in with a dry brush now and just blending in and smoothing out the colors so that they melt in together. There are so many things that I could say about the painting process that I want to go into, but that's why people spend forever, their entire lives painting, because you learn so many things. Well, what I want to say in this instance is that I'm being very careful and I'm blending everything out, making it look beautiful. But there are times when you want to create disruptions in your painting as well. And you don't want it to be so perfectly smooth all throughout. You want different textures throughout the painting. That also makes the painting have a louder noise. It's almost like if you think of a painting as a symphony, it'll have a string quartet or have strings, and then it'll have drums, and it'll change rhythms from time to time. And that's what it should be like. Well, that's what I like to think of it, when it comes to painting. So you want some areas to be really smooth and beautiful, maybe some areas to be really blurred out. Like in this case, I try to do that with a background. This way, it creates a little bit of a symphony vibe. But of course, I can, in a lot of my other paintings, I will push that boundary a bit more. And in this one, it does feel overall very controlled. I am now doing the crystals, and I'm just going in for it with all kinds of different colors. And there will be points at times where I'm reaching out for a color, and it will remind me of a color that I see in the body as well. So I'll just add a little bit on the body. But remember, when you're painting, it's all about the reference. There is no color, like there is no part of that painting that does not exist with another part. So sometimes if it's not perfectly aligned with your reference image, you can still look at the shadow in comparison to, or the light and dark in comparison to another shade that is kind of similar, and figure out what actually suits that area. So you don't need it to be perfect. I oftentimes use lime green for highlights, even though the image that I'm using might have yellow or light pink or white as the highlight. I might find lime green more interesting. And if you compare lime green next to red, it's gonna be really bright and really dark, and there will be areas in your painting that might suit the dark red, even though that dark color might be black. Do you understand what I mean? So it's all about that reference that you're making between colors and feeling it out. Again, don't be afraid. I still haven't painted that hand. You can tell that I'm putting it for last. I don't like that though. I should be painting hands probably just at the same time as I'm doing the rest. Oh, there we go. There we go. I don't know if you noticed. I'll try to pick it up later. But I'm using several brushes. I tend to hold a couple brushes in my hands, and then after my painting,
oh my gosh, guys,
process every day, I will go and clean the brushes. Usually I try, or I'll leave the brushes in turpentine so that it doesn't destroy,
in the front of the
so it doesn't dry out. So remember to take care of your brushes. It's really important. This way you can get the color that you want, and it doesn't become dirty, and also the brushes end up being in your favor.
And I had already saved it on my desktop.
I'm just going,
but it was on a computer that I just ordered, and I didn't end up liking it. But I was using it anyway, and I knew that
I'm super zen at
the guys were the shipping people were going to come on the 18th. So I had actually already saved the JPEG for you guys on my desktop, and I was going to send it to myself before the 18th, but then I lost track of time, and it's 18th now. I thought it was the 17th, and they just the colors. I kind of
as you're painting.
They took the computer, which is fine. That they were supposed to take the computer, but
I was going to send myself the image first so that I could show you the reference image, and I don't have it anywhere on my phone. I should have done this ahead of time. It's just been crazy. I've been packing my schedule full. I've not been at home so much, and it's just like, I feel so freaking bad. I was going to send you guys the reference image and show you guys the reference image, but Jesus. Well, you know what? I actually still have more to paint. So you're going to be seeing the rest of the painting process now of me painting without a reference image. But just letting you guys know, I was following a reference image up until this point. I'm really sorry I wasn't able to show you guys the reference image. That really, really sucks. I decided to keep that recording, even though I ended up making a new reference image that resembles this one. It doesn't look the same. It's similar, but not the same, because I can't remember what effects I used, so the colors are not the same, but you can still see the reference image. I'm sharing it with y'all, I mean, in this video, as you can see. And yeah, I actually did some behind the scenes work, so I added some highlights, and I didn't use the reference image for the rest of the painting, as I said, because I wasn't able to get the effects right. But at that point, I already had most of the painting there anyway, so I just highlighted the areas that I wanted to pop more. And yeah, now I'm adding these background currents, and I'm deciding that I want to call this painting Crystal Currents. I think it suits the vibe. Yeah, I would love to know what you guys think. And if you want me to make more of these long videos for you guys, it's something I want to be able to do. I want to do more exclusive content for you. And yeah, because I really appreciate you supporting me. So please let me know what you want to see more of, and whether this was helpful, what kind of tips you want me to talk more about. This is the completed painting. I really love it. It's so smooth and gorgeous. As you can see, I added really rough, light white strokes on top of those currents just to make it look like it's electric. And you can see a little bit more of the details here. I need to get a better camera for y'all. Anyway, I hope that was fun and useful. Please let me know how I can improve your Patreon experience. And if you find it useful, feel free to share with your friends. Let them know about me. Also, yeah, I just hope to be able to grow my community here and offer more valuable stuff. YouTube gives a glimpse, but the way I envision my Patreon account to be is to be able to offer more in-depth, valuable information. So please let me know how I can make it better. Reach out at any time. I love you guys so much and hope you're having a wonderful beginning of the year. Ciao.